Today, I'd like to talk about this idea of relating to meditation and our spiritual path I call being in it for the long game. What I'm referring to here is, of course, it's for anybody wherever you are on your spiritual path, whether you're new to meditation or you've been doing it for a long time. There are different issues here when we're talking about, are we new to practice or doing it for 10, 15, 20 years plus. But either way, being in it for the long game is an attitude, and it's an intention. For someone new to meditation, I'd like to share some ideas here on what might be helpful for you to think about it in a more sustainable way for cultivating that long-term, healthy, consistent meditation. And for some of you who've been doing it a long time, we run out of steam from time to time. We struggle. That consistency is hard over many years. As often the treasure we mine through our meditation is hard won. It's not quick for most of us. So I want to talk about these two sides of it, and hopefully there's some useful thoughts here for you to reflect on yourself. So first, when it comes to being in it for the long game as a new meditator, it's a challenging one because we often are so new, we don't have much of a taste of the fruit of practice yet. And so there's, I often think of this kind of hill we're climbing, right? And there's a point in the hill where we reach a sense of, tiredness because we've been walking, but we're actually closer to where there's a plateau. Not in a negative way, but just in a way where we get a little bit of a sign that our meditation is helpful. And so this can take time. Sometimes this is because of just sort of maybe the technique we're using or the way we're relating to the technique or relating to the path we're working with isn't sort of clicking yet. A lot of the time it's just perseverance and just being in it every day and putting energy into it like anything else we're getting used to. So either way, I think this approach of being in it for the long game is helpful because it's an attitude we can take where we're not looking for quick fixes. It's also an attitude we can take where we're not just putting out small fires with our meditation. And what I mean by that is often, myself included, we can get caught in the day-to-day of just putting out the small fires of our emotional upheavals in relation to life. Something goes wrong, a problem happens, something we didn't expect comes up, and we grip. We all of us respond in different ways. Sometimes fear takes over, and then we can respond with aggression. We can respond by freezing. We can respond by trying to control and fix. So there's many different responses we can have. And, I'm not going to say that's like easy to not do that, right? I've seen that in very advanced Buddhist practitioners, but it takes time to get to that level where we're not, applying aggression, control, or freezing, right? But either way, I think even this attitude of being in it for the long game means we're not using our meditation to only put out small fires, right? Which kind of keeps us on this treadmill or circle, just sort of, one fire to the next. And we never are looking at, what's behind the fire, what keeps the climate dry, arid, prone to fire, right? And that is an analogy for our mind and emotions. So I think that's what this attitude of being in it for the long game as a meditator provides us, because it provides us a little bit more of a view, a little bit more of an outlook or long-term view. Sometimes His Holiness the Dalai Lama talks about this view in relation to altruism and compassion, which is one way to look at it. But in the beginning, when we're just working on our own side of the street, so to speak, it's also useful to think of it this way. And now, next, when we've been in it for a long time, we lose steam. We get frustrated. We feel like we're just spinning our wheels sometimes. We might feel like, we've been practicing for a long time and we don't see the benefit of it. A friend of mine, Sharon Salzberg, who's a well-known meditation teacher, she said one time, it's not that we're not changing or transforming, or, and I'm paraphrasing here. It's not that we're not changing or transforming or, you know, benefiting from our meditation practice. It's often that it's just much harder to see that. Just like when we look in the mirror each day, we don't see that we're aging. You know, we notice 5 years, 10 years later, right? So, because we see our mind every day, because we see our emotions every day, it's hard to tell what actually is happening. It's hard to tell what kind of results we're deriving from our practice. So when we're in it for the long game, and we've already been practicing for a long time, or at least 5 or 10 years or something, we do have to remind ourselves of that intention, that this is a process. And you know, where are we trying to get anyways? I think that's a question I ask myself. It's a tough question to ask, because you know, it depends on what we believe or how we relate to life and death, right? So it's an interesting one, right? Because if, you know, if we end at death, then, you know, there's a real finite amount of time to work on ourselves. And what does that mean? You know, if we die, what's the relationship? If we just die and cease to exist, you know, what's the relationship to meditation then? Anyways, that's for some other content. But yeah, so there's this sense when, you know, I'm reflecting on the long game, that, you know, what does consistent, regular effort look like for me? What's sustainable for me at the moment? And that's changed. When I was a monk, I obviously had a lot more time for practice than now, you know, being back in the world, so to speak, and having a daughter and a family. It's challenging. So I try to fit in practice in different ways. So for me, part of that long game is remembering awareness throughout the day, remembering practice. Of course, I have a formal practice every day, but including practice and trying to integrate it more throughout the day. That's been one of my long game techniques. And as I said a few minutes ago, that's been incredibly beneficial when it comes to small fires, where you know, I may be freaking out about something that's frustrating me, or I'm struggling with, or, you know, a minor emergency that came up. And, you know, usually most of the time I'm making it way more of a big deal than it is or it needs to be. And so that long game helps me, because it helps me to remember, oh yeah, like my mind is this fluid thing moving through time. And, you know, how I affect the next moment of mine depends on how I interact with it now. Meaning, like, tomorrow's mind or tomorrow's Scott is affected by today's Scott, and what kind of energy and what kind of time I put into my working with my thoughts, working with my emotions in a healthy way. So yeah, that's about it. I just wanted to share some ideas here. I hope this is helpful. Let me know in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. You know, let me know. Yeah, how do you, you know, if you've been meditating for a while, how do you kind of relate to this sense of being in it for the long game? What are tools you use? How do you keep yourself inspired? You know, active in that relationship. And if you're new to meditation, feel free to ask some questions. You know, if take away some of these ideas and let me know how they resonate for you. You're also welcome, if you're listening on Spotify or somewhere else, you're welcome to message me on my website, scottdusa.com. So thanks so much. I really appreciate you, and have a good one.